Although Hobby Lobby only had one clock face, I love table clocks, so I decided to make 4 different variations. Easy to follow along plans? Let's do it. I found 6 tabletop clocks that I liked. The first one is just this adorable little bird. It's got a spot for a pin. Might end up making that for the missus, so that way, she has something at work to constantly look at to know the time and how slow it's going. Maybe not this one. It's a cool clock, but maybe not for that reason. The second one is just a mantle style clock. I love mantle style clocks. They're chunky. They just scream pinkies out. And I don't have a mantle. My fireplace is a built-in, but hey, it's a cool looking clock and I could do something with it. Probably put it behind me. Like where most of the cool projects go. They just stay in the garage. I've got 2 minimalistic style, kind of just rounded top, flat bottom. They're kind of skinny. They'd be smaller. Desk setting, office setting, living room setting, any setting. They would work out. Those are pretty cool looking. I've got another bird. There's another bird. And then this guy, he's a snail. And I don't know. I liked him. He's pretty cute. Find some scrap boards the same size as the free printable plans from the website. These are not the plans. I plan on making the plans today while this dries because I got to glue it all together. But I got some black walnut here. I actually cut these 2 pieces up, and then I found this chunky boy. There's a whole board over there. Look at that. Just put in between 2 slices of bread. Arr! Very thick black walnut. Gorgeous. I got a few pieces of cherry. I got a few pieces of oak. Who did this? I can't cut this up. He's got a face. I've already named him Jeffrey and decided his favorite color is blue. And if you guys haven't sourced someplace to get nicer hardwoods or you haven't experimented with them yet, I know they could be a little cashy. I don't have a provider. It's actually my father. I go over there and he's like, "Do you want these scraps?" And I say, "Yes, I do." You can make them out of a 2x piece of material, and it's still pretty thick, so that could work out just fine. You might need a 2x8 to get some of the bigger designs, but even the smaller minimalistic one, it'd fit inside of this piece just fine. You could also print them so they're a little bit smaller. Just make sure that your holes line up to be the same size as the clock face you buy. And this clock face might be different than the clock that you buy. It's saying the inside diameter is 2 3/8. Yours might be different. There is a center on there. It doesn't have the circle for the clock. It just has dead center of where you would have to pilot down with the arbor to drill out your holes. So keep that in mind. Without further ado, I'm going to smash some glue in between our wood sandwiches and come back and see what it looks like tomorrow. If you've ever wondered why all the clocks are set to 10:10, here it is. Rise and shine, people. The glue is dry. Things are ready to move forward. I took a chunky piece of that black walnut and actually made this little beauty right here. Got the stamp on the bottom. Gorgeous. $20 fitting. Sheesh. You can put pins into it. It's actually for the plumber that came and did some stuff for us. We had some issues that have been here, but now that it's winter, they're worse. So he came and he's like, "It looks like you could fix this yourself unless you want to pay me." And I said, "No, fine. Yeah, I'll do it." He's like, "All right, I'll just sell you the stuff." And it was super cheap. So that saved me like 2 weeks of pay. So that's cool. All right, we're going to get the clamps off of here. And I never use a liner underneath. I just get all this glue on the workbench and I just take a scraper and just scrape it off. Treat the place like it's a hibachi grill. I've also finished making the plans, so we don't have to use these monstrosities. They're out of here. And there's 2 different ways you could go about this one. This mantle style, a lot of them have this little toe lifty thing, terminology, who knows. It has a lift, otherwise you could leave it straight. I like the one that has the straight. You could make it with this lip. The lip is included. If you don't want that, just draw a straight line across it. Done and done. I might even put the line in there for you. I don't know. But I kind of like this style. A lot of them have this. Complete preference up to you. But I've got the mantle style guy. Oh, he's got to go on the black walnut because that's the one I'm excited about. I'm really excited about that one. Him, I don't know what's going to happen. Snail! I love the snail too. Man, I just like all these little... I love table clocks, all right? The bird was actually really tricky to get his head down because he did not look like a bird the first time. And this guy. Bam, bam. I've got him. Do you want to become a mantle today? It looks like this. All right. He said maybe. Said maybe, people. He doesn't talk. He's a piece of wood. With this, what we're going to do is take some scissors. And you're going to cut out just around the shape. You don't have to cut on the line because your saw is going to do that here in a minute. Just like that. We're going to repeat that for all of these little guys. Just like so. And while you're out picking up that clock from Hobby Lobby, grab some Elmer's Craft Bond glue. There's a couple different ways you could attach these down to your project. If you wanted to take a pencil, I've never tried this. I get the comment a lot. Let's do it with this one because it might be easier. You look at where the line is. You kind of give it a doodle like this. Hey, it did. Look at that. That's exciting. That's not what I'm going to do. You could do that. You could pick up some tracing paper. You could get some glue, glue it down. That's what we're doing. Otherwise, these hardwoods, you really can't do the trace it, find the indent, trace it method that I like to do. You can really only do that on pieces of pine, sorry. But this one, I'm just going to use some Elmer's glue. So I'm going to take my glue stick. I'm going to take my stencil. I'm going to look at the board. This has a crack right here. I want to avoid that. If you want to play with, grain direction, that might be kind of important if you're doing some thinner pieces. Again, a crack, a giant piece of glue. This was not a good board to glue up, but we did it. So I'm going to use the bottom of this and here. Again, he's going to hang over because I want him close to the bottom because the top of this board is not looking good. I'm going to apply some glue. Takes you right back to grade school, guys. This is kindergarten instructions. You're going to flip them over. You're going to glue them down into place. Just like that. Boom. Snail. Done. It's repositionable. If you want to pull it off, lay it back down, you can. Maybe 1 or 2 times. I don't know how much the wood is going to soak up the glue. Just like so. And you're going to do that for all of the boards. I generally, even though I have a straight edge, if you want to cut the line on your straight edge and line it up perfectly to that edge, you could. So you have the straight edge already on there. I generally don't because I can sand these on my belt sander afterwards to get this nice and cleaned up. If you guys don't have the belt sander, you don't want to spend as much time sanding, you could put that right on the line. As long as it's straight, you're good to go. And even some of these you might be able to fit, 2 projects on. It's all up to the boards that you've got in the garage. While I still have all of this wood real estate, I want to drill out for the actual clock insert before I cut the shape out. Because if I cut the shape out and I accidentally drill the clock over just, 1/4 of an inch, it happens. I can't fix it. It's going to look silly and you got to restart. But if I drill this in the wrong spot right now, granted it doesn't go too far that I'm going to go off my board, I can move the plan and adjust accordingly. So each of the plans have this little cross-haired section that I am matching up with the arbor of a hole saw. I'm going to do this in 2 different ways. I'm going to use a hole saw for a couple of them, and then I'll show you a way to do it with the router. Now, my hole saw, the 2.5 is just too big. Again, this one is 2 3/8, so it's just too big to fit. I can wrap some electrical tape around here. I'll figure it out. But the 2 1/4 inch, just too small. This one, just too big. Story of my life. So matching the arbor up with the center right here, I've got my board on a piece of styrofoam. That's just so I don't drill into my workbench. And once I feel it get almost completely through to where the arbor has stuck out, but the actual drill has not, I'm going to back up I'm going to flip the board over. You'll see just the tiny little hole. And I'm going to finish out my cut. And that way I don't get blowout, so, less sanding later on. And although I'm not a fan with drilling the hole all the way through, let's say you wanted to put a clock on both sides of it. Now you can, as long as you have access to the batteries on the inside. So if you're using like a gentle 3M tape or something to hold it in place, that way you can get to the batteries later on. So that's an option. Another option is to not drill the hole all the way through, and it really requires a router. You could take this and just go a certain depth in and then get real mad with your chisel, and the inside's not going to look great. If you can get it to look great, you're well beyond my skill level. But most of the time it looks kind of teethed up and chewed on the inside. I don't like attacking things with chisels. So that's where I just use a router. You're going to get a flush cut bit. It's going to have a little bearing on the top, and that is because it rides against this template that I have cut out. So I just use my hole saw, drill the hole into here. If you wanted to cut a hole that was the same size using your jigsaw, bandsaw, whatever, that would work as well, but the clock fits in there. And don't leave your clock around all the sawdust. Tiny little gears, they're not big fans of sawdust, especially when they're fine-tuned like a clock. So put it somewhere else where there's less sawdust. Still sawdust, but not as much. And then with this template, what I'm going to do is kind of line it up so that it looks centered. And then again, I clamp her down. I clamp her down because if this can choose violence, it's going to. And this reduces that chance. And then you're going to cut out the inside, set your depth a little lower, cut out the inside, set your depth just a little bit lower, cut out the inside until you reached a depth that is equal to or slightly greater than the back of your clock. All right, and you just remove all the clamps. There's a perfectly little cutout hole. Clock fits in there like a glove. Again, I've got some play because the hole is just a little too big, and that's all right. I think it's going to look adorable. All the holes are drilled out and looking good, except for this one. This one, it kind of jarred over and I messed it up, but the face of the clock will actually cover it up, so it's not a big deal. That blemish will be hidden. Now, moving on to cutting out the shapes. You guys got a scroll saw, you got a bandsaw, just attack these beauties. If you are going at it with a jigsaw, I recommend, again, getting a piece of styrofoam. I got this DeWalt laminating blade. For whatever reason, it cuts the nicest and straightest pieces. You don't see them all, crooked, like usually when you're using these. But throw down your piece of styrofoam. If you have a supporting piece of wood that's the same height as the piece you're cutting, it helps so that it can't fall this direction. Kind of makes things nice. We covered this in the last video when we built the wine holders. But if you're cutting around with this, it works. I've proved it in the last video. It does a pretty good job, but I'm going to retrace this because it ate it with the drill and cut these guys out. Just like when you make any other cuts with any other tool, watch where your hand toes are. Make sure you're operating in a safe manner, cutting nice and straight and slow on those lines, keeping them crisp and looking good. And you guys got this. You got it. Now we just need to sand them so they're nice and smooth. If you guys are using a belt sander, take advantage of this nice rounded section off the end, because it really gets inside of this little nook pretty nice. And most of our projects have rounded edges right now. Whoa, 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 pump the brakes. I gotta drill some eye holes. So for both of these guys, just using a 1/4 inch Forstner bit. Boom. I'm only going about the depth of the Forstner bit. I'm not going all the way through. It makes them really scary if you go all the way through. It also helps you take the plans right off of there too. Said, not super deep. This would be much more impressive if I had 4 clocks instead of just the one, but there it is. Gently sand your edges. You got the upright, snail, the cool one that I love the most, and the little birdie. And to get this to stay in place, all I actually did was took 2 little pieces of paper and I just held them at the top and the bottom as I put it into place. There you go. Stay. Yeah. There you go. And you guys can print these plans out to a larger or smaller scale, so that way they fit the clock faces that you're able to find in your area. Again, this was a 3-inch wide, is a 2 3/8 on the back. The circle on the inside of the plans, that should be pretty much your clock face size. So if you print it out, you measure it, it says it's 4 inches, your clock face is 2.5. Clearly, you need to shrink down the plans a little bit. But play around with them, have fun. See ya. Are you not going to cut the board up to make another table clock? What? Jeffrey? Yeah. We just never cut him up. No, I'm the one you want. I'm the one you want. It's me. So if you care to find me, look to the western sky.